Thank you very much for clicking on Sense and Sensibilities. We're glad you're back if you've been looking at these videos, but also if it's your first time, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the Secure Act, the Tax Act, but as it most pertains to required minimum distributions. And this is one of those things that can sneak up on you and really take a bite out of your savings if you're not paying attention. And again, it's one of those things you don't want to set and forget. You need to be ready for. So required minimum distributions, Tim, is Uncle Sam's way of saying, hey, I let you grow your money. Now I want my chunk and I want it now.
I want to be paid. Yes, absolutely. And I need to apologize for our profession from the get-go that we are so in love with acronyms. So in our short time together, we're going to talk about RMDs from your IRA, but you can use a QCD from your IRA to satisfy your RMD. So we'll sort that out. But you mentioned RMDs, and there was this act a few years ago called the Secure Act. And it really had some major changes to a lot of retirees who have IRA, 401k type of accounts. And the first one is for many, many years, the required minimum distribution age was this 70 and a half. Why the half, I don't know, but 70 and a half, you had to take a certain amount or a required minimum distribution. Well, that has gradually been pushed out a little bit. And actually in about 2032, the age will be 75 instead of 70 and a half. And that generally is a positive thing because it allows more of your tax deferred dollars to grow and hopefully, help support your retirement.
And 73 is the age right now. That changed in 23. And if you're 72 and a half, you need to be paying attention to this. And we all need to be watching when that date comes because Tim talked about the penalties.
Yeah, surprising to many folks, and I'm just using a hypothetical. If my required amount was $10,000 in 2024, and I missed taking out that $10,000, at one time the penalty was 50% of that amount. A $5,000 penalty for missing the $10,000 RMD. I think a lot of our legislators have agreed that's not real appropriate, but it's still a whopping 25% penalty, right? And there's some provisions that might reduce that a little bit, but it's important that we make sure we take it out in the appropriate year.
Right, and there's a whole formula that goes with this, and you're going to definitely want to be talking to your planner about this because you don't want to miss the deadline, you don't want to mess it up, you don't want to be paying fees, and you also want to make sure that you pay the right amount because they'll be coming back around if you don't.
Yeah, and these required minimum distributions also apply to those who inherit an IRA, and those rules have been in flux for the last few years, and I think we got some good guidance recently. But for the most part, most beneficiaries now have to take out a beneficiary IRA within a 10-year period of when the person who owned it passed away.
And that's the non-spouse, right? The spouse can take it in their lifetime, but the beneficiary has to do it in a 10-year time frame.
Yeah, that's a great point. Generally, spouses can always move money to their, other spouse and treat it as their own. A non-spouse, most people have to take it out within 10 years. So, some of these accounts are pretty high, and over a 10-year period can increase significant income taxes. So you want to work with your advisor to make sure you got a tax strategy to manage that.
No doubt about that. And then of course the QCD, we talked about that, that acronym. This one can actually be a very big game changer for people with those very large accounts who, may need the tax break, and they can help themselves in a big way this way.
Yeah. So, if you are interested in charitable planning and you're over age 70 and a half, you really should be looking at QCDs. Very tax efficient way to take money from an IRA and give it to a charity. And it's one of the best ways to give to charity because if my RMD is $10,000 and instead of taking it, I give it to a charity, that $10,000 never hits my tax return. All right, that's a huge benefit. Not only am I not paying income taxes, it might actually help me go under a different Medicare threshold and reduce my Medicare premiums as well. So very powerful strategy.
Oh, no doubt about it, Tim. Now, this is one of those things that definitely want to take up with your financial planner whenever you have your meeting this year or in the next few months. And so Sense and Sensibilities on RMDs, done. Thanks for clicking.